A lot to go through in today's Daily Shower. Matt Macon's here. Thanks for joining me. Again, the Daily Shower is meant to grab your attention of the weather headlines coming your way. In today's daily headlines, let's talk about the amount of water on the way to the country. Still prolific across the west, but also expanding some heavy rainfall and snowfall across the New England states down through the mid-Atlantic. Details on that. How much snow are we looking at the next 1 to 3 days? Nearing 3 to 4 feet in some cases, and snow will spread across Colorado as well. Details on that. Plus, we're looking out even farther. What are the hazards coming our way next week? Plus, when are the temperatures going to cool down? There's an indication late January may be cold. Have those headlines. Plus, finally, more from the viewer mailbag, if you will. More detailed explanation about the river levels as well as the lake levels for Lake Mead, Lake Powell, and across the Colorado River Basin. All of that straight ahead in today's Daily Shower. A quick thank you for liking, subscribing, leaving your feedback. I try to incorporate all of it into making better videos in the future, so thank you. Off with what's happening this week, check out all the moisture. Rain and precip is going to be the biggest talking point for coastal areas of California into the central areas, with snowfall for the Sierras, a bullseye of rainfall out by Cincinnati, and another area of heavy precip out across the New England states. That's for the entire week, so that's a lot of water coming through. Let's take a look at the animation to give you a more specific timeline of when rain, snow, or a wintry mix may move into your area. First off, the abundance of moisture is out here in California as discussed. So that's number one. Number two is a developing storm system over the Rockies and over Colorado will kind of develop right overhead with minimal impact, and then as it goes off to the east, it'll grab more moisture and become more of a weather headline maker. More rain, more snow, more of a wintry impact as you go toward the mid-Atlantic and the New England states. And at times we may see some storm systems kind of pop up over the Canadian prairies and head toward the Great Lakes or so. So all that combined, let's get to it and we'll just go forward in time. This is going to be Tuesday midday, so around the lunch hour, and let's get into Wednesday midday at the lunch hour. You see the combination here of some of that rain and snow generated out of the Great Lakes, the rain and snow generated across the Colorado region into Wyoming and Nebraska, and the abundance of moisture that continues out into California. Forward in time, watch that system grow now. This is going to be Thursday at the lunch hour, and now we have a much stronger storm system out across the south, the southeast, the east, the mid-Atlantic, heading toward New England. And that is going to be the biggest weather maker for that region as we go throughout the week. Let's pause on Friday at midday, Friday lunchtime, roughly speaking, for a lot of us. And that's when the heaviest snow and rain will be kind of confined to the border with Canada. A lot of rainfall has moved off the Atlantic onto the ocean, and we're still seeing the abundance of water out across the western U.S. Bullseyes of water from Seattle, Portland, down to San Francisco, especially focusing on those mountain ranges, but even coastal areas will have a lot. Just west of Seattle, you get into the national park, we're looking at more than 5 inches of total precip. Come down into California and looking at coastal areas from the state line with Oregon, from Crescent City to Eureka down to Vallejo, Oakland, San Jose, Santa Cruz, all the way down close to LA at times will be some very heavy rainfall. The bullseye zoomed in here, this is going to be just south of Eureka and north of Mendocino, and we're looking at about 10 inches of total precip to 15 inches of total precip on the way. Another similar bullseye here in the higher elevations from Redding to Mount Shasta. As far as east areas of the country, around Cincinnati to Nashville, we have a bullseye of heavier precip. Some of these totals really focusing on Louisville and Lexington, so north of Nashville up to about Dayton or so. We're looking at around 2 inches of total precip on the way. Nice little bullseye there of some heavier moisture. And then you get into the mid-Atlantic and New England states, and kind of focusing on coastal areas of Mass all the way up into Maine, we see those totals climb to about 3 inches, and that'll be happening mostly north and northeast of Bangor. But as far as moisture, this is going to be a wintry mix, a mix of rain, some icing, and snow. And as we look at the next 3 days, that's when I like to focus on snowfall totals. Going beyond 3 days in snowfall, you get kind of hokey. You can find all kinds of ranges of snowfall. So let's focus on the next 3, and we have some areas here around Maine, the UP, and northern Detroit, out into the Rocky Mountain region, the Great Basin, out into California, so the Sierras, and up into the Cascades. We'll also have some snowfall. Let's zoom the map in. Here are the Sierras as you look south of the highway and west of Bishop. The entire mountain range here is easily going to be around 2 feet, but then you get into the isolated areas, we're looking around 33, 36, 42 inches of total snowfall. So around 3 feet of snowfall over 3 days. Another little bullseye around Mount Shasta. As you look into the Rockies and also the Wasatch and Teton Range all the way down to the south here, we're looking at kind of more like a 6 to 12 inch kind of snowfall event. So for the deepest snow, you got to be in California. Otherwise, the Rockies, the Cascades, kind of looking at about a 6 to 12er. As you look at Marquette out to the Sioux, so the UP here, we're looking at, generally speaking, around 2 to 4 inches perhaps, and the same for northern Michigan. And then let's go out into Maine, kind of the same. We're looking at about 2 to 4 in most cases, perhaps pushing around 6 to 8 as you go farther to the north. But that moisture, that bullseye moisture for the mid-Atlantic and New England is going to be a wintry mix, a mix of everything for everybody back there. Let's get into next week. What hazards should you be aware of coming your way within 10 days? And that's going to be the heaviest precip does continue out into California, Oregon, and we're looking at dates around the 17th to 23rd on that heavy precip to continue. Relatively quiet as far as heaviest precipitation areas elsewhere in the country, but we will still be having rain and snow. I'm just pointing the area of most hazardous or most impactful moisture there. Heaviest snowfall areas coming our way, the Cascades, Sierras, central and northern Rockies this time, down into the Wasatch Range. And this snowfall is going to be focusing on the 17th to the 20th. That'll be the heaviest snowfall coming your way next week. And there's also going to be some wind. Winds out from the Great Basin to the coastal areas there to the west. That'll be focusing on the 12th all the way through the 18th. And also high winds for focusing here on New Mexico and West Texas, down into southeastern Arizona. That'll be focusing on the near term around the 16th. So those are the hazards coming our way, at least the headline kind of driving. More on the potential cold. It's been a very mild month overall. There is some indication that we may cool off as we get into weeks 3 and 4, especially weeks 4. So we'd be looking at a very end of January into the first week of February. Maybe some cold air comes out of Canada to cover the rest of the country. We'll talk on more on that on future videos. Let's touch on water supply. I did so with stream flow across the Colorado River Basin in the previous video, so check that one out. Let's focus on the viewer's question, the comment about specific information for Lake Mead and Lake Powell. Let's start off with Lake Powell. This graph starts off on October 1st for all years. October 1st is the start of the water year. And here we are presently. Notice that black line, which is the current year, is much below this line. What's that one? Last year. What are these color shades? That would be within historic perspective. Kind of rare low, getting closer to median, and then extreme higher levels. Notice how dry we are. That is a percent of average of 38%. Last year was 84%. So we are way down here in Lake Powell as far as storage currently. There is some snow upstream. We've released a lot of water out of Colorado to help out Lake Powell, but still very, very low. What about Lake Mead? Here's Lake Mead. Notice a similar situation. Black line is the current water year. So from October 1st into early January, and we are way below even last year. Last year was 82% right there. This year, we are sitting at 45% of average for Lake Mead. To get within more normal range, you got to be way up here. So we are way behind the 8 ball here, if you will, for Lake Powell and Lake Mead as far as current water storage. We do have snow, obviously, into Colorado and Utah, some of the mountains in Arizona and New Mexico, which will help. But we are so far behind the 8 ball, we have a long way to go. Don't expect a rapid recovery of these reservoir levels, sadly. And if you're also curious, what about all that water in California? That does not flow in this direction. For the Colorado River Basin, Lake Mead, Lake Powell, you got to get that water into the Wasatch Range, southern Wasatch Range, as well as most of the central and southern Rockies. And we're not seeing a ton of snowfall there. We're close to average in some cases, but we need a lot more this water year. So hopefully that answers that question on water supply for those two reservoirs. That's today's Daily Shower. Again, it's meant to be the weather headlines. What's coming your way? Once you know something is coming your way, reach out to your local National Weather Service forecast. They'll give you location-specific details, snow totals, rain totals, timing. I'm just here to give you the headlines. Matt Makins, we'll see you the next time.